Hello chaps and chapesses, it's me again, John. Oh fuck me, it's actually all kicking off, and I hope you're all doing as well as you can be. Welcome back to part 7 of my dispatch review and analysis series. We are very near the end of the game now, and I know that you are all absolutely frantic to pick up from where we left off in episode 6, so I'll keep this intro super brief. Episode 7 is fucking great. It's incredibly tense, gritty, and delivers us a delicious platter of exposed secrets, damning betrayals, and pure emotional turmoil. And a big part of what makes it so good is that the story is allowed to play out without repeated interruptions from those pesky gremlins dispatching and hacking. The story here is a real roller coaster of difficult problems and imperfect solutions, and for once, you're left to navigate it all without being bothered by some pointless 15-minute side quest that destroys the pacing and doesn't really go anywhere. And, yes, I recognise the irony of saying that when the whole shtick of these videos is me constantly pausing the story to interject with my own pointless pace-destroying rants that don't really go anywhere. Like I said, we are nearly at the end of this series now, so I should think that at least some of you will be familiar with what's about to happen. But for those of you who are new, put the kettle on, get comfortable, and be prepared for about an hour of full-on verbal bombardment. Because, as always, I have a lot to say. Well, I told you it'd be brief. We open to the voice of a child, sadly protesting that he's too old to cry. And look! It's baby Robert! Already sporting that chunk torn out of his ear. An older voice tells him, fuck off, I cry all the time. Baby Robert asks him when, and the voice replies that he cried for weeks when the Raiders left LA. I think this is an American football reference that I'm too free healthcare to understand. And oh my goodness, it's 2003. The year of Return of the King. The complete mapping of the human genome, and the colossal crime against humanity that should have led to Tony Blair and George Bush being tried in The Hague, the Iraq War. And look again, it's not so baby Chase. Robert sarcastically points out that, yeah, that's totally the fucking same thing as my dad never being home. And Chase tells him to watch his language, motherfucker.
Huh?
Chase tells Robert that actually they kind of are the same thing. His dad had season tickets growing up, and despite the fact that the seats sucked, he just liked being there with his dad. So when the Raiders moved, they lost that, and he cried like a bitch too. Robert asks Chase if he's therefore saying that he's crying like a bitch, showing us that Robert's misadventures with constantly being called a bitch go back even to his childhood. And Chase confirms that, yes, bitch, that is exactly what he's saying. But showing us again that Chase is a pure sweetheart hiding behind a thin veneer of bitchiness, he asks Robert if he wants anything from the shop. Robert's dad gave him $100 and he needs to break it anyway. Robert is astounded that Chase is getting paid for this, but Chase simply repeats that, to be around your crying bitch ass? Fuck yeah, he pays me. Chase tells Robert that he can have whatever he wants, as long as it's less than $20. We get the option to ask for Twinkies, beer, or cigars. I asked him for Twinkies because they're Robert's favourite, as we've seen from his vending machine habits. But if you ask him for some booze, Chase will oblige you on the condition that you do not tell your dad. With that, Chase sets off blazing to the shop, knocking over the coat stand by the door. Robert diligently goes to pick up the coats, but leaves the rack on the floor? I don't know. Before I can have much chance to question it, or Robert can even put the coats down, Chase returns with a big multi-pack of Twinkies, saying that now Robert can be sad a whole 8 other times before bothering him again. If you ask him for some booze, he comes back with a little bottle of malt liquor. Robert asks Chase how he got it, seeing as he's only 20, and Chase tells him that obviously he stole it. And it turns out that I made a little mistake in the last video, because Robert didn't say that Chase had stolen things from him before, he said that he stole things for him, which we now see. Robert takes a huge swig before spitting it out and complaining that it's vile, and Chase tells him that he knows and that's why he bought it, to show Robert that he shouldn't drink that shit. He takes out a pack of Twinkies and throws them over, saying that he knows that they're Robert's favourite. As Robert begins to smile, we hear Blazer's voice in the present, saying that she didn't realise that Robert and Chase were that close, that their relationship went back so far. And neither did I. I think it's great that Dispatch gives you this tiny little flashback of the relationship between Robert and Chase, as it really helps to redefine everything that we've seen between the two of them thus far. They are more than just old friends. They were basically brothers. Back in the present, Chase is stuck in a hospital bed, looking like he may well be at death's door. But at least for now, we know he didn't die from saving Invisigal. Robert says that Chase was like a big brother to him, and he didn't appreciate it enough. He says that Chase would only babysit nights whilst his father had to deal with something big. Working late, as he used to call it. Robert says that he was fine with being alone, but he'd still ask to have Chase watch him because he could guilt trip him into buying him shit, and he never said no. Robert laughs mournfully at the memories, saying that he used to make Chase run a lot back then. Blazer comes closer and takes a punt at what Robert must be thinking. Maybe one less store run for bitch-ass baby Robert and Chase wouldn't be stuck in here fighting for his life. Robert admits that that is what he was thinking, but now that he hears it out loud, it sounds silly. Blazer tells Robert that there's only one person responsible for Chase being here, and that Vizzy is suspended pending investigation. Moreover, Blazer suggests that Robert should consider cutting her from the Z team. She's not pushing him to do so, it's 100% his call, but she is saying that he should consider it. You can either admit that Vizzy really fucked up, that cutting her might make things worse, or ask for more time and say that Robert will get back to her. In my run, I decided that Robert was going to fight for Invisigal to stay, so Robert says that he's worried that cutting her would only make the whole thing worse. Although what Invisigal did was reckless and foolish, Chase was the one who made the decision to go after her, and I don't think that she can fully be held responsible for that. Blazer argues that she can't help but think that they've already cut a hero for far less. And if you recall, I said at the time, when we had to cut either Coupe or Sonar, that it was a fucking stupid decision to cut anybody at that point. It was a stupid decision then, and I think it remains a stupid decision now. We should not be forced to follow the precedent of a bad call. Robert says that they had to send a message, and Blazer agrees that that's pretty much her point. They can't let this kind of behavior slide. Robert bemoans that things just keep getting better and better, and rubs his face as if trying to clean himself of this entire situation. Blazer offers him some money for the vending machine, and Robert sadly asks if he can have whatever he wants, echoing the way that Chase used to buy him stuff when he was sad, and she nods. Blazer pushes the money into Robert's hand and tells him that Chase is so fucking proud of the man he's become. He told her that. If you went on a date with her, she even presses Robert's hand to her face and gently kisses his knuckles. As Blazer goes to leave, Robert's grasp begins to shake and tremble as he literally tries to hold on to himself. But as Blazer goes, he breaks down into sobbing and lays a hand on Chase's bed. At the vending machine, Robert eyes up some Twinkies, but the machine keeps spitting his money back out. The poor man doesn't even have the energy to get mad and just rests his forehead sullenly against the glass. Waterboy appears at his side, silently offering up his own damp-ass $5. They stick the soggy note in the microwave, and Robert asks if Waterboy is okay. Waterboy says that he's just mad, and Robert says that he knows the feeling. Waterboy says that it's not fair. Vizzy was the one who... Chase shouldn't have had to... But he can't get the words out. He knocks over a little cup on top of the microwave, but quickly puts it back. And this moment is such a great encapsulation of who Waterboy is. He's angry, he wants to lash out, but he also doesn't want anybody else to have to suffer for that, or to make a mess of anything. Waterboy asks if we think that Chase did the right thing. We can either say that he did, that he didn't, or that we honestly don't know. For me personally, I think that Robert has shown time and time again that he believes in doing the right thing regardless of the personal risks or costs. And I don't think that he would diminish Chase's noble sacrifice by undercutting the value of it to Waterboy. And so Robert says that he thinks Chase knew that he was the only one who could save her, and that he knew the risks. Ultimately, it was the right thing to do. He tries Waterboy's note, and though the machine actually accepts it this time, the Twinkies end up stuck and won't fall. We see Waterboy's reflection in the glass as he picks up one of the office chairs, and Robert darts out of the way as he full sends it into the machine with a frustrated scream. Rather than telling him off or anything, Robert simply asks if he feels any better. Waterboy says, kinda, and that he'll clean it up. Again showing that even when he loses control of himself, he doesn't want to make life more difficult for anybody else around him. Accountable king. After raiding the vending machine for all it's worth, Robert takes his massive stack of snacks back to his desk and begins to give the Z team a debrief on how things stand. Just so I don't have to jump back and forth between Robert's little speech and the visuals, Flambe and Sonar are watching the news in SDN's lounge. Malevola sadly cleans her sword. Phenomenon is sat up on the moon, watching the earth spin as he demolishes a full crate of beers. Punch Up knocks the stuffing out of a punching bag, literally, and Prism sits out in the rain with her vape. It's clear that they're all taking the news pretty hard, and it's a tragic reflection of how much closer everybody has become, watching them deal with their shared grief in their own ways. Anyway, Robert says that they've all probably heard some version of what happened. Main takeaways are that Vizzy has been suspended, so they're a person down this shift. Chase is in the infirmary, and he's in pretty rough shape. Despite him being a grumpy bastard all the time, Robert says that he really likes the Z-teamers, though they shouldn't tell Chase that he said that. Robert says that he's always found that doing something good helps when he's feeling bad, and that the team is fortunate to have that opportunity, something Chase never took for granted. So it's time to get back to work. And then, of course, dispatch, blah blah blah, who gives a shit? As the day draws to a close, Robert's making his way home just as Punch Up goes flying through a glass door, before shaking himself off and heading back inside like nothing happened. Robert follows him, of course, and finds that the Z-team is having a little meeting. Malevola tells Punch Up that he's got a little something in his arm, and he thanks her for looking out before tensing several inches of glass out of his arm, the wound sealing up almost immediately. Just to bring this up briefly, this really doesn't make any sense. We were told that Punch Up's powers were invulnerability and density control, so how did he even get stabbed by something as pathetic as broken glass? There was also absolutely nothing mentioned about him having a healing factor. After all, being invulnerable makes a healing factor entirely redundant. I don't know if the writers forgot about what his powers were, or didn't really understand what invulnerability is as opposed to having a healing factor, but it still feels a little bit odd. So Robert steps in and asks everybody what's going on. Prism explains that it's exactly what it looks like. This dumbass, Golem, kicked that dumbass, Punch Up, out the fucking door. So Robert's like, okay, cool. Now that we've got all the details clear, why? Punch Up says that it was just a disagreement. He got heated and got in Golem's face. Golem had every right to punt him through that wall. Robert says that he doubts that Punch Up was actually in Golem's face, considering the 7-foot height difference involved in that equation, and Prism confirms that it was more like getting up in his ankle. Robert's had enough of this bullshit and shouts at the team, asking them what the fuck is going on. Malevola steps forward and says that the team wants Vizzy out. Sonar says that they basically took a board vote, and that's why they came to the conference room. Phenomenon says that he abstained because he's neither human, nor a reformed villain, nor particularly interested in this conversation. He only came because he thought they were playing Magic the Gathering tonight. And in a grave tone fit for a man overlooking a disaster, he intones, "And I hope we still may." It's so fucking funny. I absolutely love Phenomenon, honestly one of my favourite characters. If you brought Waterboy onto the team, he says that Vizzy shouldn't have done what she did. He thinks she should go. Sir. Boss. Robert. Robert asks if there's anybody who wants her to stay, and Golem is the only one that speaks up. But he says that he's willing to concede that the team is more important than any one of them, so he won't stand in the way of their decision. If you revealed your identity earlier, then Flambe says that he feels the same way. They let him back into the team when they didn't have to, after he nearly killed Robert. But he won't make them keep somebody they want gone. Then Prism speaks up. She says that they heard about the suspension, but it isn't enough. Not for what Vizzy did. She put everything that they have been building at risk. And for what? She likes Vizzy, but she's got to go. And Malevola makes it very clear. By go, they mean cut from the team. Just like we cut Coop or Sonar. She doesn't want to say that it's Invisigal or the team, but that's what it is. Before we get into our response, I feel like it's important to point out that Flambe's line here is pretty much the only consequence we've seen of our choice to share Robert's identity with the Z team. Well, this and whether he punches Robert in the face when he shows up to the party. At the time, the decision to trust the Z team with Robert's secret identity felt like a pivotal decision, one that would really shape the relationship between Robert and the rest of the team. It felt like an important moment. But nothing really comes from it. Chase outs you as Mecha Man at the party in the previous episode, and we get a quick flash of everybody looking surprised. But none of the Z-teamers even bring it up here. Surely they would be pressing the fact that Robert owes them for lying in order to get their way with Invisigal getting dropped from the team. Or if not that, they would at least mention it, that he needs to regain their trust by showing them that he's not just playing favourites or something like that. But there's really nothing. And the real shame here is that if you tell them about Robert being Mecha Man, it feels like the trust that Robert puts in them is repaid by how much closer everybody becomes. But now we know that everybody ends up pretty close anyway, and that nobody is going to hold Robert's lies against him. Once again, we're left in this position where Dispatch fails to respect the choices that the player makes in any meaningful way. The story feels very on rails, and Dispatch repeatedly fumbles any attempt to make you feel like you can make a substantial impact on what happens in the story. I mean, there's a part of me that's not even surprised by this fact anymore. But as the game has progressed, the fact that this hasn't changed at all remains really disappointing. But let's get back to business. Our choice here is a simple one. Do we defend Vizzy, or do we agree to let her go? For me, this wasn't even a choice. You think I'm cutting my best girl? You are out of your tiny fucking mind. Robert tells the team that even though he doesn't say it enough, he's proud of all of them, of how far they've come. A few months ago, Christ, it's been months? This game's timeline is weird. They wouldn't have even been in a room like this discussing the needs of the Z team, and if they had, there'd be a lot more than one broken door. But Robert says that we are not cutting Invisigal. We don't kick people when they're down, we lift them up. And Robert believes of her what he believes of all of them, that her heart is in the right place. It's what took them from being a team to being this weird, fucked up family. He knows that they're hurting. He's hurting too. But now isn't the time to cast blame. It's time to come together and heal. The alert in the corner says that the Z team won't forget this. Morale has dropped. Frankly, this is a very stupid alert for me, as this was a moment where Robert came out and told everybody that he wouldn't be leaving them behind just for making a mistake in the heat of the moment. He solidifies the fact that they are a family, and that he's not going to let anything tear this team apart. I have no idea how you could walk away from this speech with your morale dropping. Now, if you're a heartless cunt and decide that you are going to cut Invisigal from the team, then Robert's speech goes something like this. And damn you all for making me pick this option. The speech starts in the same way, with Robert saying he's proud of everybody, but shifts in the second half. Robert says that he's not putting all of their progress at risk for one person who can't keep up. He says that he's done his best to salvage things and work with Vizzy, but this isn't the first time that she's put the team at risk. But it will be the last. He'll let Blazer know of their decision, and he'll tell her that he supports it. In either case, Beef looks up and sniffs the air, and the conference room door flickers open and closed. That's right! Vizzy was there the entire time! I don't know how she possibly managed to hold her breath for several minutes straight, but let's just ignore that, I suppose. Robert makes his way down to the locker room, searching for Vizzy. He finds her as she's in the middle of getting changed, and quickly apologizes and turns his back. Vizzy asks why he's apologizing. The first time they met, he was in his underwear, so it's only fitting that the last time they meet, she'll be in hers. She says that she appreciates Robert defending her, but he really shouldn't bother. He should listen to his team, and they don't want her there. Your choice here is 3 variations on the same theme, and in my playthrough I just came straight out with it and had Robert admit that he cares about her, that he doesn't want her to go. Using her real name, Robert says that Courtney went in knowing the risks, knowing what she was willing to put on the line to help him. What she didn't know was what Chase was willing to put on the line for her, because he cares about her, and he's not the only one. Robert begs her not to throw it all away by walking away from this opportunity, from the team, fuck it, from Robert himself. But Vizzy isn't listening. She says that the team's right, that she doesn't deserve anybody's forgiveness, anybody's help, anybody's love, because she can never repay it. She takes off her top, symbolically stripping back and standing there both literally and metaphorically naked. No more pretenses, no more ego, just letting herself be vulnerable. She says that nothing she will ever do can make up for what she's already done to Robert. She hoped that getting the astral pulse back would help, but she couldn't even do that. Robert tries to assure her that she doesn't owe anyone anything, least of all him. But then Vizzy drops the bomb. She was there that night. Robert is confused, not understanding what she's saying, but Vizzy shows him. Standing there, bare-chested, we see that she has a red ring implant in her chest. She says that she never ran with any crews, always did her own thing, but her asthma was getting worse, and Shroud had an augment that could increase her lung capacity. The only catch is that she'd have to work for them, paying down her debt over the course of years. We drop into a flashback of the night that Robert fell to Shroud's ambush. Vizzy was there, watching on as Robert and Toxin fought in the warehouse, emerging from the shadows with a cigarette and simply observing whilst Robert was overwhelmed. It turns out that Shroud came to her and said that she could have the whole debt cleared if she was able to do just one thing: place a bomb on the back of Mecha Man, undetected. We watch as she descends down the rope of a crane that held Mecha Man helpless in the air. We also get a glimpse of how Vizzy sees herself whilst she's using her powers, as this translucent blue outline. It's really cool. She fights to stay standing whilst the villains bombard Mecha Man with lasers and energy blasts and toxic explosions, and she's only just saved from taking a grappling hook directly to the face by the force field that Robert puts up around the suit. We replay that same scene from episode 1 from a different perspective, and we also learn that Vizzy is actually capable of including things other than herself within her invisibility, as she hides the bomb from sight. To be honest, it really kind of sucks that we didn't see this ability earlier. I had entirely discounted that it might have been Vizzy that put that bomb on Mecha Man's back, purely because I didn't think that she had the ability to extend her powers to things that she was touching. I appreciate that the writers clearly wanted this to be a surprise, but it's my belief that a story should give you all the information you need in order to make these conclusions for yourself. I'm not saying that it should be easy, or that you should be spoon-fed anything, but it feels like a little bit of an arse pull to say, oh, actually, she could do this all along, we just never showed you, lol. But back to business. Invisigal is nearly knocked clear as the suit rattles, and she grabs onto Mecha Man's chest plate, climbing up to stare directly through the hole that Robert is staring at Shroud through. I absolutely fucking love this. The idea that Robert was staring straight through her whilst all this was happening really adds an extra layer to this scene, and I think it's beautifully done. Having to come face to face with the person that she's been doing this to, you can see the inner conflict written clearly across Vizzy's face. For a moment, it even looks like she's going to change her mind, but she steels herself, climbs up to the suit's back, and places the explosive. And I remember saying in episode 1 that I hoped there would be an explanation for how exactly that bomb got onto Robert's back, and I'm absolutely chuffed to see this finally revealed in such a dramatic and interesting way. Vizzy says that she quit the minute the job was done, not even sticking around to watch the bomb go off. We cut to Vizzy in her car. She explains that her augments conveniently stopped working as soon as she left, so she signed up for the Phoenix program the next day. In her own words, giving her the opportunity to fuck up Robert's life twice. And here comes the kicker. We are given the choice to forgive her, to cut her off entirely, or say that we don't know how to feel. Once again, for the avoidance of any doubt, this is my ride or die we're talking about here. There is absolutely no world in which I'm not forgiving her. She was a troubled person, in way over her head with the most dangerous supervillain around, and looking for what she thought was an easy way out. She didn't know Robert, there was nothing personal about it, and how could we possibly expect her to come clean when doing so would risk everything that she had built in her new life with SDN? So Robert says he forgives her. Are they fucking chill now? Aghast, Vizzy retorts that he can't just fucking forgive her. He hasn't even processed what's going on. Robert simply says that she did supervillain shit while she was a supervillain. Does it change anything that he was the victim and not some stranger? No, it doesn't. It's in the past now. She's not the same person that was there that night, and neither is he. And man, what a fucking guy Robert is. I think it's easy to overlook the specifics of what he's saying here, so let's dig into it. He's not saying that he can forgive her because of their relationship. He's not giving her a free pass. He's saying that he finds her past equally offensive regardless of whether her actions hurt him or some random stranger. It's all the same in his eyes. He had already decided to forgive her for all the nasty shit she did in the past, and the fact that at one point he was on the brunt end of that doesn't make a difference to him. And I think that's a really powerful statement. Vizzy looks up at him, disbelieving, and says that whilst that's sweet of him, she just feels numb. Robert tells her to stop making this whole thing sound like a goodbye. Her suspension is only temporary. He's not going to let anyone cut her from the team. Vizzy sighs, her eyes closed, unable to face Robert. She admits that all she wanted out of the Phoenix program was for Robert to look at her the same way that he looks at Blazer. even if it was just once. That would have been enough. Robert says that he doesn't know what she means by that, but Vizzy says that yes, he does. Looking up at him with an expression that is so tender, so helpless, so unguarded and earnest, that it's impossible for your heart not to break just a little for her. The problem with this is that it's a line that only really works if you had decided to pursue a relationship with Blazer throughout the rest of the game. And of course, by the rest of the game, I mean the one decision that you're given about it. In this playthrough, we went on a date with Invisigal, told her that we had a great time together, followed through with every one of her advances, danced with her at the party, defended her against the team, told her outright that we care about her, pleaded for her not to leave us, and then forgave her for effectively killing Mecha Man. There was literally no point at which we could have been more clear about our feelings for her, or even really hinted at any kind of romantic feelings towards Blazer. Sure, if we had chosen Blazer, then this makes perfect sense, but I feel like the game is once again blatantly disregarding all of our previous choices. If I was being incredibly generous, then I suppose there's a reading in which Vizzy is referring to the way that Robert looks at Blazer as a hero, as someone who is fundamentally good, where Vizzy sees herself as somebody who was ultimately fated to fall into her role as a villain and consistently stumbles in her attempts to become a true hero. She envisages Blazer as this effortless moral paragon, someone who always does the right thing and doesn't even seem to struggle with it. Where Blazer is somebody who literally shines as a glowing beacon of everything that it means to be a hero, Vizzy sees herself as somebody confined to the shadows, someone who is meant to be out of sight and can never truly achieve what she wants. But look, I'm not trying to suck myself off here, but I am a very good persuasive writer. I could abuse all the twisty tricks I've learned over the years and make a somewhat convincing argument for basically anything. And I'm absolutely going out of my way here to try and scrape a modicum of sense out of this scene. I think we all know that everything I just said is a reach, and I refuse to bend over backwards to try and excuse the truly ham-fisted way that Dispatch attempts to appear as if it respects your decisions. It's pretty clear that what Vizzy says here doesn't make sense considering the way that I played the game. The writers decided that they wanted this scene and didn't care how incongruous it might be with certain people's version of the story. It's lazy and self-indulgent, and we shouldn't be making excuses for it. Anyway, Vizzy picks up her bag and fades into invisibility as she takes her leave. Robert looks on, dejected, but after a moment he's pushed back against the locker by some invisible force. It looks like something is pushing against Robert's face, that his lips are slightly puckered. Oh my god, they're kissing! You can choose whether to lean into this kiss or not, and because I'm not a fucking loser, we are obviously going for it. The two embrace, all this pent-up sexual tension finally boiling over. But just as suddenly as it began, Vizzy takes off again. Now, I'm not happy about what's coming next, but I do feel obliged to show you what happens if you don't accept Vizzy's apology. You sick fucks made me do this. I hate you all. Entering the locker room after agreeing to cut Vizzy from the team, she tells us that she heard everything, and that we don't have to fire her twice. She's leaving. Robert tells her that this was the Z team's decision, not his alone. They took it to a vote, and he has to respect that. Robert says that he tried his best, he really did, and he thinks he tried the most with Vizzy. But it wasn't enough. He wasn't enough. Which is why this is on him. He failed her, and he hopes that one day she can forgive him for letting her down. So Vizzy tells him about the bomb as usual, which leads us to this. Oh! I cannot tell you how much I didn't want to have to do this. Fuck you guys. Hurt and betrayed, Robert says that, yeah, she convinced him. They're done. All Vizzy can say is, okay, and she apologizes again for fucking up Robert's life. Robert tells her that he doesn't even have much of a life to fuck up anymore, so she should probably go, unless she wants to drown beef on the way out. Vizzy says that all she wanted out of this was for people to look at her the way that Robert looks at Blazer, instead of the way that they always have. The same way that Robert is looking at her now. He asks her what way that would be, and she looks up heartbroken and says, like I'm incapable of good. With that, she takes her leave. This whole thing is non-canon. As far as I'm concerned, I will speak no more of it. Until I inevitably have to when we get to the finale in episode 8. Robert takes his leave, making sure to be a responsible dog owner when Beef does a little poo in the rain. They make their way to Chase's hospital bed, which I had previously assumed was actually in SDN, because Blazer gave him that money to go to the vending machine, which is in SDN, but I don't know. Robert places Beef down on Chase's lap and tells the two of them not to stay up too late, like they were having a sleepover. No. Making his way home in a taxi, Robert stares out into the rain before he gets a text from Blazer. She says that the press have the story that an SDN hero got hurt last night, and they're asking for a statement. She asks Robert if they can tell them that it was Trackstar. She wants people to know what Chase did, but she doesn't know how he'd feel about going public with that information. As an alternative, she says that they could say that it was Invisigal. She was pretty messed up when they got to her, so it wouldn't exactly be a lie. She just feels like... So, it's up to us to decide what we want to tell the press. Was it Trackstar or Invisigal? For me, I think that Chase's final act as a hero should be something that he's remembered for. He's the one who put his life on the line, and we should recognize that. Robert tells her to tell the world just how much of a hero Trackstar really is. It's the least they can do. She says that she feels the same way, thanking us, and says that she hopes that we're doing okay. If we do choose Invisigal, Robert says that Chase can reveal his identity if he wants to when he wakes up, and Blazer says that that makes sense. Either way, we end up back at the Sardine, with two drunks fighting outside in the rain. Let it be said that I thought it was a terrible idea to go to a villain bar when surrounded by a powerful party of friendly ex-villains. Going alone seems even more reckless, but I think that there's one of two ways you can read into this. Either Robert is going out looking for a fight as a way to vent all of his pain and frustration, or maybe this is just another kind of self-harm, a reflection of just how bad Robert's mental state is at the minute, throwing himself into a dangerous situation and not really caring about any of the risks. Inside, some guy opines that he hopes they all die, and we assume that he's talking about heroes. And look, a zombie drinking whiskey. Now that's world building. The guy says he's serious. Any dumbass walking into a trap that fucking stupid should have had the plug pulled right now. Just pillows over faces. We can assume that he's talking about the incident at the docks, but the fact that he frames it as a trap is really interesting. It didn't seem to be a trap at the time, or if it was, I don't really know who the target was or what benefit they had hoped to gain from it. The barman goes on, asking Beard Guy if he's seen what the poison does to his victims' faces. They get all red and puffy, and Robert smashes his glass in his hand, entirely uncaring about the blood pooling freely from his palm. The bartender strolls over and, sweet Jesus Christ, the look on Robert's face could chill a fucking glacier. He looks poised on the edge of bloody murder as the barman approaches, saying, "Someone's a little fucking impatient." I mean, I get that working at a villain bar probably desensitizes you to dangerous people, but my god, this guy is being bravely cavalier in the face of a Robert looking like he wants to strip him of his skin. Our options here are nothing special really. We can ask them to change the subject, tell them to shut the fuck up, or ask for another drink. And no matter how self-destructive Robert is feeling, I for one do not want to see him charging into a full 1v50 against a bar of supervillains. So we ask for another drink, on account of having smashed ours. The barman obliges, asking Robert if he's okay. He seems perturbed. And that will teach me not to judge people, because I really did not think that this guy had the word perturbed up his Hawaiian shirt sleeves. Beard Guy pipes up. He says that he sees what's going on here. Robert must have lost somebody at the docks. That's why he's been staring at the news all night. He tells the barman to get us a drink on him. Robert gives him a bloody thumbs up, and the barman says it's okay. This round is on the house. He pours us a pint and a shot, sending Beard Guy sliding down the bar so he can aura farm by picking it up without looking. What a cool cucumber. We look over to the news to see Blonde Blazer offering a live statement on the harbour incident. The barman leers at the sight of her, as she tells the press about Chase's commitment, bravery, and willingness to put himself in danger to help a colleague in distress. Beard Guy decides to chime in with his own witty commentary, saying that Trackstar sucks and mocking, "I was fast, but now I'm old." Get fucked. The barman offers up a toast to the fucking dream. 5 minutes with the tightest ass in all of LA County. As he does an obscene impression of him motorboating Blazer before turning to ask, "Can you motorboat an ass?" "Probably not, right? You'd end up blowing air up in her butthole." Robert's grip tenses dangerously on his pint. The barman leans in close, meeting Robert's gaze and asking him, "What's the matter? You don't like asses?" We are given the option to glass this guy, and let me tell you, I think he absolutely deserves it. We are, however, right in the middle of a supervillain bar, and no matter how repulsive it is, some disgusting old lech making misogynistic comments about Blazer's ass is not quite worth getting absolutely murdered over, in my opinion. So, reluctantly, we let him go. The barman turns to the beard guy and says, "What's this guy's problem?" And the beard guy replies, "Hey, I'm great at predicting things, and I cannot believe that he let that go." The barman is now clearly confused and rounds on Robert again, saying, "Freckles, you mind telling me what's going..." And we never learn what the end of that sentence might have been, as the barman takes a bullet straight through the brain. And just in case you're wondering, if you do decide to glass the fucker, well, you, glass him. Slamming a pint straight into his face and sending him crashing to the floor. Beard Guy says that that's not as far as he was going to take it, but good on us. He climbs behind the bar, offering to get us another drink, and then shoots the bartender in the head. Either way, Robert sits there, shell-shocked, as his ears ring out with the deafening sound of the shot, his face covered in blood. Beard Guy climbs behind the bar and gives the barman's lifeless body a kick. He says that he respects Blazer, that she's a real fucking superhero. Turning aside, we see a red ring implant in the side of his head. He says that he knows they're in a villain bar, but have some class, you know? Robert turns to see that every single person in the bar is staring at the two of them, the whole room aglow with the crimson shine of red ring implants. Beard Guy continues as if nothing has happened, saying that if you're gonna blow some fucker's brains out, non-slip mats are a must. He should get some for the hideout, although it feels silly to call it a hideout. He steps forward and asks, "Can you take care of him for me?" Before Robert can protest, it's revealed that Beard Guy isn't talking to him. Up strolls either Coupe or Sonar, who smack Robert in the back of the head and knock him out cold. Do you guys remember back in episodes 1 and 2 when I was on my whole, "Oh my god, I think that guy's Shroud. No, actually, I think that guy's Shroud." Turns out that I was being too clever for my own good. Between me and you, I think this guy might be Shroud. Flickers of pain and blood-soaked memories flash across the screen as Robert is tortured. And like any good villain, Shroud begins monologuing. And let me be frank, I just cannot possibly do a recount of this any justice compared to the actual VA. So let's just sit back and enjoy the horror together.
Your dad, Chase, your little team of turncoats. You think you can beat the bad by being good, but there's no solving human nature. You can't stop evil. All you can do is control it.
For the first time, we get a proper insight into Shroud's philosophy as a villain. He believes that heroes are fighting a futile battle to extinguish an evil that can never truly be defeated. The evil inside of humankind. He believes that the human soul itself is corrupt, and therefore wickedness can never truly be stopped. But whilst he doesn't believe that evil can be conquered, he believes that it can be controlled. That it can be directed, dominated, and wielded the same way as any other tool. On top of this, we also gain a subtle insight into his powers. His augment is connected to his brain. We know that he's a technical genius and that he must possess a terrifying level of intelligence to be able to mastermind and coordinate such an extensive criminal empire. But pay close attention to what he said earlier. I'm pretty good at predicting things. Back in episode 1, he was able to predict how long it would be before Mecha Man's shield gave way with near perfect accuracy. Just now, he was able to predict where his shot glass was going to end up and catch it without looking. I think it's pretty clear that Shroud's most dangerous ability is the power of prediction. And this works beautifully to explain his worldview. If you could see every bad choice that a person would make, that every person would make, would you be able to just stand on the sideline and let it all play out? If you could see the darkness inside of a person's heart before it ever manifested outwardly, would the fact that they hadn't done it yet be enough of a defense to stop you from nipping it in the bud? If you could see that your work as a hero was never going to end, that there would never be a final victory over evil, would you not seek a different path? Shroud is a determinist. His predictive powers lead him to believe that the world is already a foregone conclusion, that every choice a person will ever make has already been laid out for them, and that life is just a matter of catching up to where you were always supposed to be. If he can control the variables, then he can control the future. What a fucking awesome character, holy shit. Suspended upside down whilst he's being beaten and cut, Shroud kneels in close to Robert and shows him his father's gun. He says that Robert Robertson II kept it in his locker, fully loaded, 6 shots. Robert's father never could have predicted that Shroud would use it to kill him. Shroud tells us that the first shot grazed his shoulder. Shroud hadn't adjusted to the adrenaline spike yet. The second hit his upper chest. The third burst his heart. He was lying on the floor, eyes full of fear, when Shroud put the fourth through his face. He admits that maybe it was a bit of a waste to put the fifth through that idiot bartender's skull, but he wanted to make sure it still worked after all these years. He pulls away, revealing Robert's bruised and battered face, swollen halfway to being unrecognizable. Shroud continues that Robert's father was the last person to touch this bullet, and now there's a 16.5% chance that it touches him next. He says that our invisible girlfriend stole his astral pulse to give it to us, so where the fuck is it? He says that Mecha Man, that all heroes are things of the past, and that with the pulse, he will control the city and restore the balance. He will bring order to chaos. We can either tell Shroud that we don't have it, promise that we are going to kill him, or spit in his face. But before that, I just want to quickly revisit something that Shroud just said. He said that he wanted his astral pulse back. And this time, I don't think this is a case of a supervillain in the midst of an ego trip. Back in episode 1, Toxin said that the pulse didn't really belong to Robert anyway, and Robert told Royd that his father didn't have any blueprints for it. Then, Royd mentioned that he didn't think that Robert's dad built it at all. He was an engineer, not a scientist. Taking all this together, the simple truth becomes overwhelmingly clear. Shroud is the creator of the astral pulse. But knowing that won't stop Robert from spitting in the cunt's face. Oh. But gravity definitely will. That's embarrassing. Shroud pulls the trigger, and thankfully Robert's immense gambler's aura is more than enough to deal with such puny odds. Shroud says that this is why he hates luck. It runs out. Before preparing another shot. And whilst this line is cool, it also doesn't really align with Shroud's philosophy or his powers at all. I mean, he took a 16.5% chance. He's the guy with the predictive powers. He knows that the odds are stacked against him in this particular equation. But whatever. Robert tries to reason with him, asking him why he would let them string him up like a fucking piñata if he actually had the pulse. He tells Shroud again, Invisigal didn't get the pulse. Shroud's eyes flicker in a barrage of data, computing the odds. After a moment, he huffs in surprise and notes that Robert actually believes that. He tells one of his minions to show us for ourselves. A projection appears of the security footage from that night. Vizzy steps out of the captain's quarters and finds the lava twins laying there on the floor. Shroud says that he knows that Vizzy has the pulse. What he doesn't know is why she didn't give it to us. We watch as she puts the case down, opens it, and pockets the astral pulse. Shroud says all this time he thought that she was working with us, but it turns out she's been fucking over both sides. She didn't take it for Robert. She took it for herself. Robert is forced to watch, appalled and speechless, as Vizzy betrays him again. Shroud grabs Robert by the face in some twisted subversion of fatherly tenderness. He tells Robert that it's okay. She fooled him too. He runs another prediction and steps aside mere moments before the sardine's door is blasted off its hinges and comes hurtling towards them at Mach fuck. Ladies and gentlemen, strap into your seats, because blonde fucking Blazer is here. She strides confidently, threateningly, unstoppably forward as the Red Ring henchmen part around her. Oh, and just look at the artistry here. This scene is so unbelievably cool. The art team deserve every possible bit of praise for the composition of this shot. The faded, smoky crimson of the red ring on the left nearly overwhelming the entire room, but being held back by a faint glimmer of blue from Blazer's back, uncompromising in its stand against the darkness. Shroud casually says that he fired the bartender, but he can still get her something to drink. Blazer politely declines with malice in her eyes. She locks gazes with whoever you cut from the Z team, disgusted, and Blazer says that she's here for us. She steps forward, seemingly unbothered by the fact that she's beset by villains on all sides. She tells Shroud that in 5 minutes this bar will be surrounded by SDN agents, heroes, and whoever else Shroud and the Red Ring have pissed off recently, which happens to be every gang in LA. Coupe interrupts with an, "Okay, Mom." She's fucking bluffing, and Shroud turns on her like a bloodhound with a stare that says, "If you speak again, you will lose your tongue." I don't know who fucking wrote this, but it seems to be somebody who has absolutely no idea who they were writing for. Coupe has always been this stoic, blunt, almost emotionless assassin-type character.
Okay, Mom. She's fucking bluffing.
To see her portrayed so childishly here is really quite jarring and totally out of character for her. Still, she does better out of her interruption than Sonar does if he's the one that got fired. He jumps in with a bullshit and gets straight up pistol whipped as Shroud dangerously tells him not to disrespect one of the last true heroes. Either way, Shroud turns back to Blazer and apologizes, saying, "If they weren't shit, we wouldn't have cut them." Blazer casts an appraising eye around the room, admitting that she's outnumbered and that eventually she would fall. Her eyes begin to glow with power as she says that by her read, she's taking a lot of them with her before she does. She takes to the air. She offers the Red Ring a choice. Either they can all leave now, summoning bolts of glowing energy to her fists, radiating with searing light, or half of them can die here. Members of the Red Ring begin to look around nervously as Shroud breaks into a slow applause. He commends her, saying, "Now that's a fucking superhero. Chills. Top notch. You made them nervous." But after a tense beat, Shroud relents, casually saying that, "Okay, we're out of here," telling the Red Ring to take their piss-soaked pants out the back, please. They don't want to tempt this tiger. As they file out, Shroud tells Blazer that this isn't their time, but it's coming sooner than she thinks. He turns to leave, but before he does, he turns back to tell her that, by his calculations, she'd have killed closer to 32% before they took her down. But he admits that half does sound better. They leave. And at this point, I'm just screaming at the screen like, "Jesus Christ, woman! They're alone! Fucking kill this bitch right now!" Look, I know that it's anime transformation rules, and you can't have Blazer just zip over, snap Shroud's neck, grab Robert and go, because that would be boring and anticlimactic. And having the rest of the goons filter out first and then leaving Shroud and Coupe or Sonar to stand off alone against Blazer is way cooler. But nonetheless. Blazer flies over and takes Robert out of his chains. We can either thank her, express our disbelief that she found us, or ask whether she was bluffing about the backup. In my playthrough, I just straight up thanked her, because whilst I was absolutely curious about whether there really was backup or not, Shroud literally just left and can't be very far away, so I don't exactly want to spill our hand like that when he could be standing literally 5 feet outside the door. So we thank her, and Blazer tells us that we should really sign up for this SDN service she keeps hearing about. Fucking excellent line. If you do ask her about the backup, then she admits that she was absolutely lying through her teeth about anybody else coming to help. But was she lying about taking out half of them? Nah. Robert tries to get to his feet, fighting for ragged, painful breath and grunting against the torment of his battered body. Blazer tells him that it's okay. She's got him. She takes him in her arms and flies away. The two return to the billboard where it all began, where Blazer first invited Robert to join SDN back in episode 1. He pulls his clothes back on, and I have no idea where Blazer was supposed to be keeping those. Robert has apparently already relayed everything that happened to Blonde Blazer as she asks if he's sure that Shroud is right about Invisigal and the Pulse. Robert confirms it. He saw the footage. Blazer wonders what Vizzy's play is here. If she really has the Pulse, why didn't she tell them? What could she possibly want it for? The only thing Blazer can think is that maybe Vizzy is trying to keep Robert out of the suit. We can either say that she's planning something, that we don't care, or that we trust her. And if you've been paying attention, you know what my answer is. That's my boo! I trust her. We tell Blazer as much, and she says that she thinks that we're more optimistic than she is, and Robert agrees that she's probably right. Blazer takes a seat beside us whilst Robert literally dangles off the side of this billboard. Like, good God, woman, get that man away from that ledge, Jesus. Robert says that he just needs to sit up there and rest for like a few weeks, then he'll be right as rain. Clearly, he used up all of his bullshit plot armor and vulnerability powers, because needing a few weeks to heal from a little bit of light torture is certainly more than he needed to recover from tanking a nuclear explosion to the face. Yes, I'm still not over that. Blazer says that he can take his time. She doesn't even know how he's conscious. So at least somebody seems to recognize that Robert shouldn't even be able to breathe on his own after a night of concussive head trauma, extended blood loss, and inverted lung crushing. Robert simply tells her that when the pain is constant, it's easier to get used to. And this is a great line that speaks not only to Robert's physical pain, but also alludes to his ongoing struggles with depression. And hearing this, I'm really glad that Dispatch has grown out of its early phase of over-explaining its dialogue. Like, we all obviously get the double entendre here, and the game is getting much better at respecting its audience enough not to spoon-feed us needless clarification of what was just said. Oh, for fuck's sake. Looking out onto the Hollywood sign, Robert says that it really is nice up here. He thanks her again, saying that he doesn't remember if he already thanked her, but Blazer cuts him off, saying that he's apologized about 50 times. He was muttering it the whole flight over. And so he takes it back. Blazer says that he should know she was actually going to take them up to the real Hollywood sign, but it's not as sturdy as he'd. She's interrupted by the sound of an explosion in the distance. The sound of terrified screams and destruction rings through the night. Cars and buildings explode all across the city, and Blazer flies higher, gawking at the sheer level of carnage tearing the city apart. Red Ring thugs blast through a bank vault, looting and pillaging across town. A news helicopter tries to take in the scene, but Toxin flies his naked ass into the cockpit and takes control. Blazer surveys the burning city, heartbroken, before Robert gets her attention. He pushes himself to his feet, ignoring the pain, pushing past his limits to do what needs to be done. He stumbles up and stretches out his hand, saying, "You're not leaving me here again." Blazer looks at him, astonished, and smiles. She takes him by the wrist. Whatever they have to face tonight, they'll face it together. Wowee! What a roller coaster! Holy shit! This episode was absolutely packed with twists and turns, secrets and betrayals, and so much emotional depth and character development that I really don't know what more I could have asked for. And part of the reason that everything felt so dynamic and tense was that we weren't being dragged into any bullshit, boring minigames all the time. The story was just allowed to be told without ripping you away for what does genuinely feel like a boring desk job. So, whilst it might be counterintuitive to say that the game is better with less game in it, that remains the truth. I really enjoyed this episode, and I think it's a real highlight of the game so far. I'm super excited to get into episode 8, so I'll leave you guys here. Have a good one. Cheers.